Hello, everyone. This is Mrs. Morell with the warm-up explanation video for you to use with your homework this week. So let's go ahead and get started. Number one, what is an abiotic factor that could affect the survival of organisms in their environment? Keyword here is abiotic, so non-living factor. Algae's alive, earthworms are alive, bacteria are alive. So the only one that is an abiotic factor is inorganic substances in the substratum. And what that means is compounds that don't contain carbon in the layers right below the topsoil. But that's a process by elimination question. So algae, earthworms, bacteria are all alive. The only thing that's not alive is B. Number two, an example of a biotic factor in a pond community is, keyword is biotic, so living. Rainfall, minerals, and temperature are not living, but interspecies organisms competing against one another are living. So the answer to number two is B, interspecies competition. Number three, in a forest ecosystem, the abiotic factors include, and in this one, abiotic is the key word. And the only one in choice A, plants are alive, so it can't be A. In choice B, animals are alive, and possibly the soil if it contains decomposing matter as opposed to just dirt or sediment. C, protists are alive. And D, water, soil, and temperature. That's the only one that doesn't contain something else that's alive for sure. So I'm assuming that this soil is dirt soil, not containing any organic decomposed matter. So the correct answer for number three is D, water, soil, and temperature. Number four, what is the major difference between living and non-living matter? Go back to your 7 characteristics of living things. One of them is that it has DNA. So B says living matter contains DNA and is able to control the chemical activities with organic catalysts. That is fancy science speak for get and use energy in cellular processes. So we know that living things do that. But let's break down the other choices. Living matter is unable to diffuse materials. Well, we know living matter is able to diffuse materials because things move from high to low pressure all the time. So it can't be A. C, living matter is able to create energy. Energy can't be created or destroyed. It can only be rearranged. It's able to transform and use energy, but not create it. And D, living matter is unable to use energy for metabolic activities. And we know that living matter is able to use energy. So the best answer is B, living matter has DNA. Number 5, which abiotic factor has the least effect on the ability of aerobic organisms to live and reproduce in a cave? Abiotic factor, non-living. Aerobic means using oxygen. So you have a living organism that uses oxygen as opposed to like a plant that would take in carbon dioxide. So living organism that uses oxygen, but we're looking for an abiotic factor in a cave. The shape of the rocks would have no impact. Amount of energy present, that would be food available in the cave, but that doesn't necessarily affect its oxygen or the amount of oxygen in the cave, the amount of oxygen dissolved in the water, etc. All of those would be, it says least effect on the ability of aerobic organisms. Let's start over. Number 5, which abiotic factor has the least effect on the ability of aerobic organisms to live and reproduce in a cave? So abiotic factor, non-living, least effect. on the ability of aerobic organisms to live and reproduce in a cave. If you look at the shape of rocks, that would have no effect on it. But amount of energy present, that's food. Amount of oxygen present, it's aerobic, it breathes. And availability of moisture, that's water. All three of those things are necessary. So that's food, water, shelter. So the answer would be A, shape of rocks in a cave. All right, so that's Monday, Tuesday homework. Here is Wednesday, Thursday homework. We're switching gears back to energy transformations. Which energy transformation occurs at a rubber band powered model airplane when it's flown? So you have the rubber band, the before winding it up, and then after winding it up. Think back to sixth grade. What does a rubber band have? What kind of energy does it have? We know it's not thermal. It's not moving yet, so it's not kinetic. It's not chemical energy because it's not stored in the chemical bonds, but it's potential energy stored in the rubber band. And then when you let it go, it flies. So that would be mechanical energy. So D is the correct answer. Potential energy stored in the rubber band is transformed into mechanical energy used by the propeller. All right, number 2, which of the following converts electrical energy into motion? So we need something with electricity to movement. So light switch would be electricity to light. Electric stove would be electricity to heat. Light bulb would also be electricity to light, but an electric fan would be electricity to movement of the fan, and then also movement of the air. So that would be your electrical to motion energy transformation. Number 3, a high diver steps off a diving platform that is 10 meters above the water. If no air resistance, aka friction, is present during the fall, there will be a decrease in the diver's what? So standing 10 meters above, he's got a lot of potential energy and no kinetic energy. As he jumps off and falls toward the water, potential energy decreases because he's closer to the surface of the water, while kinetic energy, that's his motion, increases. So there would be a decrease in the diver's kinetic energy. It's not mechanical energy because mechanical energy is all the kinetic and potential energy added together, and that number doesn't change. You just switch back and forth between potential and kinetic energy. So as potential energy drops, kinetic energy increases. So the answer is C. Number 4, water can provide energy that may be changed into electricity. What kind of water could be used to provide electricity? Well, there has to be it has to change from something into electricity. So what aspect is it of water that could possibly change into electricity? And that would be moving water, because you take the kinetic energy from the water and it goes through a whole turbine, hydroelectric mechanics, and then is converted into electricity. So the best answer is B, moving. And then finally, number 5, the diagram shows 2 bowling balls of equal mass. Ball A is resting near the edge of a shelf. Ball B is resting on the ground below. Which of these statements best describes the diagram above? Well, choice A and B both talk about kinetic energy, and it specifically says that both of these are resting, so there is no kinetic energy, so you can eliminate A and B. And so that leaves ball A, potential energy. Ball A has more potential energy than ball B, or ball B has more potential energy than ball A. Well, ball A clearly has more potential energy because it's higher up than ball B. So the correct answer would be C. Ball A has more potential energy than ball B. All right, there you go. There's your homework explanation for the week. If you have any questions, see your science teacher.